we're looking at a situation that's pretty darn bad, okay? Like, people's lives have been lost. The structural damage is expected to be the worst we've ever seen in California. And you're like, wait a second, what was going on? I mean, you got the mayor who's off in Africa. Seriously, was off in Africa and had to make her way home, even though she knew there were predictions that there could be these terrible fires. She was asked, how she felt about this, and she couldn't even speak. I mean, her political career is clearly over. But again, like, when people are focused on the wrong things, whether it be going to a ceremony in Africa or whether it be making sure that you have more diversity among your fire chief personnel, your firefighter personnel, then you got problems. I mean, I would just say, hey, go back to basics. Manage your force. Imagine that. Donald Trump warned them. He told them back in 2018. He did this appearance actually with Gavin Newsom. I've got the tape. This has started to go viral now because he was sort of mocked at the time for saying like this was the answer to things, but he was not wrong. Okay, he was not wrong, not one bit. Take a look.
It's cleaned out and protected. You got to take care of the floors. The floors of the forests, very important. You look at other countries where they do it differently, and it's a whole different story. I was with the president of Finland, and he said we have a much different. We're a forest nation. He called it a forest nation, and they spend a lot of time on raking and cleaning and doing things, and they don't have any problem. And when it is, it's a very small problem. So I know everybody's looking at that to that end, and it's going to work out.
Well, it didn't really work out because guess what? They didn't really do that. And they didn't spend the time on the forest management. In fact, there was a study that came out of University of Chicago a couple of years ago. And this is a biggie, guys. This is a real, wildfires are erasing California's climate gains. This is according to a study out of U Chicago. Rob at 76research.com sent me this morning, and I think it's a relevant thing to think about here. As wildfires rage in California again this summer, the damages are adding up. In 2020 alone, the author writes, wildfires killed 30 people and caused more than $19 billion in economic losses. On top of the immediate damages, the wildfires led to pollution that is set to shave nearly a year off the life expectancy of residents in California's most polluted counties if pollution levels persist. So they're working overtime, right, with all the green initiatives. And what do they find? A new analysis finds the wildfires in 2020 alone make up 30% of the state's greenhouse gas emissions. The carbon dioxide from wildfires is not counted against California's emissions targets. So once again, we're dealing with a situation, ladies and gentlemen, of the DEI nonsense at work. They're so focused on DEI and green energy and this, that, and the other that they're not actually doing the stuff they need to do to manage their forests. And we're seeing the results of all that now in real time. But, go back to Joy Reid. Go back to the mainstream media talking about all this DEI stuff in such a nonsensical way. Proud, happy that everybody was going after Donald Trump. All these diversity initiatives were coming into fruition and they were going to take him down. You took him down, right? He didn't get another 4 years. And what happened? We got mass inflation, massive problem at the border, international chaos. It's like everything that could possibly go wrong actually went wrong. And Joy Reid wants to celebrate it and say it's a product of DEI.
Rikers is not.
And let me just bring Joy into that as well, because we've discussed this many times. A lot of the largest prison systems in America for incarceration are housing people who are awaiting trial, as Chris alluded to, Joy.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that Alvin Bragg has actually done that a lot of progressives have been happy about is a lot of those prisons are also they're the new housing for the mentally ill, rather than actually dealing with issues of mental illness in our cities, we're using prison and jail for that. But to the point that you all were just making, I mean, one of my favorite facts about one of Donald Trump's lawyers, Susan Michelis, is that one of her former clients was the notorious New York mobster Benny Eggs. And I will just assume and presume that old Benny Eggs was not attacking the judge. So Donald Trump is at this point outdoing actual mobsters in his attacks on the judge's families, the daughter, and he's doing it to the point that Lawrence made. He knows he will never spend a day, a second, a moment in prison. But for me, there is something wonderfully poetic about the fact that despite the fact that even if convicted, he's not going to go to prison, the first person to actually criminally prosecute Donald Trump is a black Harvard grad, the very kind of person that his former staff, the people who worked for him, Stephen Miller, et cetera, want to never be at Harvard Law School. But he was. And he came out and graduated. He's prosecuting you, Donald. And a black woman is doing that same exact thing in Georgia. And a black woman forced you to pay a $175 million fine that's out now also in question because the people who put it up, that might not be legit. Donald Trump is being held to account by the very multicultural, multiracial democracy that he's trying to dismantle. And for me, there's something poetic and actually wonderful about that. It says something good about our country that we're still capable of having that happen. Go DEI.
Go DEI is how she ended that. I mean, as these wildfires rage, it's a different kind of really horrendous poetry when you think of that. In other words, DEI has failed America. The media has failed America. The politicians have failed America. And January 20th can't come soon enough, right? I mean, it really can't.